think that zoomed in enough, and we should be live now with the spread picks. I got the visuals up. I'm gonna kick it over to Donnie for his normal segment, and then we can get this thing rolling. How are we doing? It was an interesting week 8. Some people hated it, some people loved it. I think the spread picks is a great way to start because if you got victories for the first time, like Will Lovett, I think you're enjoying this week. And then some teams realize they are now sellers when they maybe thought they were buyers earlier on in the season. So it kind of bleeds into the trade deadline today. I think there's a lot of interesting things to talk about. But first, let's get over to Donnie with these spread picks, and then we'll go on with the show. How are we doing, Donnie?
Good. Let's make sure we zoom out so we can get up to week 8. I want to be able to see everything that people to see what we picked.
That's right. I got to go down. I got you.
All right. So this week, we had the Pats at plus 8.5 as our group pick. Good job, New England, for once again disappointing me this year. They've been doing it great. 2-6, it's ugly. I mean, just pick the opposite of what we go with in the group pick, and you're looking pretty this year.
Our consensus is we suck.
Yeah, that's my consensus this year so far.
That's the consensus. When we have a consensus, it's bad. It's very bad.
Well, on the bright side, we still have 2 wins. That's something.
Yeah, we could be 0-8. He is right. And we got, 10 more weeks to fix it? About 9 weeks to fix it? We could finish positive.
Yes, we could.
That's the goal.
Crazier things have happened.
Yeah. Logan had the Bengals at plus 5.5 against the Niners, which smashed, actually. That was a great pick by Logan. And the Chargers minus 8.5. He went 2-0 this week, almost doubling his win count. He is at 5-11 this season. Pretty much used to what his Lions have been for about 20 years. But that's besides the point. Gov.
Just like the Lions, they're coming alive.
I'm trying to restore the roar in myself as well. No, it really is. I'm very boomer bust as a player, as a selector, so I guess it fits the profile.
Yeah. Gov had the Jets minus 3 and the Falcons minus 2. And if you don't remember, we count that as a tie, I guess, is what we'd put it in column as.
It's a push.
It's a push.
If you were betting that, you'd get your money back.
Which it puts Gov's record at 8-7-1 this season.
Oh, that 0.5% ahead of everyone. Oh God! It's
the
so
only person.
There's no way for you to catch me. You either lose or you win. That's what I love about that.
The only person I think last season to not only get 1 push, but I think you finished the season with 3 pushes last season.
Well, it just seemed like there were so many games that I was just dead on.
Yeah. Anyway, he continues this godforsaken trope. I hate it.
It's fine. It's fine. We're gonna push on.
8-7-1, baby. All right, I had the Texans minus 3.5. Good job, Bryce Young, for ruining that. And the Vikings minus 1. Rest in peace, Kirk Cousins, Achilles. I'm at 8-8 this season. God damn it, Gov. 8-8 hurts now.
Let's go.
Evan had Rams plus 7, Ravens minus 7, which puts actually. Did the Ravens win by 7?
They did.
Oh, so that's a push too, actually. I have it listed wrong. I'm sorry.
All right. Well, let's fix that.
So he is 6-9-1. It always goes back.
Oh, no. He's 6-9-1. Oh, no. This is actually. Oh, God. Oh, God.
Good thing you guys tell me I'm going to come alive. Good thing I'm just going to come alive in the strongest way possible, and all these tiebreakers hopefully won't matter.
Of all people to have the 6-9 record, of course it's got to be Evan.
Feels good, baby.
Yeah, I don't want to take that out of context, but it sounded so bad.
Well, it is the day for things to be taken out of context the wrong way. So let's not do that. Johnny, interesting though, because of the things that we can do with the winner of this contest. If we have a tie, does that mean like we have to break the tie with who gets picked as captain? Do we have like two guys pick the captain and see if they can agree? Like that's just going to add a whole. So we need everyone to step up their game.
No, we all can have a DK account. Last week of the season, we'll play a head-to-head against each other if we're tied.
Yeah, I
That's
thought
fair.
about doing that. We gotta find some ways to do some interesting contests next year. I think as well. I'm excited.
As a matter of fact, if it's a tie, we'll do a cage match.
That would be good.
If you guys don't even mind, so
I don't know what a cage match is, but yeah.
It's basically a head-to-head. We will each draft a lineup, but we will do it snake draft style against each other.
Oh, that sounds so fun. We might have to do that anyway.
So if
one
I
day.
pick a dude, you cannot put that dude in your lineup, even though we're playing a head-to-head where you could normally overlap people.
So you still
Yeah.
You will have to have a completely different lineup from me and the same.
right.
So like that's how a cage match works. So like if we have a tie, we'll do a cage match head-to-head. I can send you a free head-to-head on DraftKings. We'll just do that and keep track of it.
I can see the wheel spinning in Evan's head right now. He's trying to.
I got some wheels spinning as well.
Well, it is interesting, and it's because you have to stay within the salary cap still, but you can't take the same players. So it forces.
Might force you on a different value. If we were both thinking about the same dude, oh, I wanted him, Gub. Well, build your lineup differently.
I don't think I'll have that problem because I'm so contrarian, anyways, and we'll get into that a bit later. If we're done with the spread picks, I did want to get over to Evan because when we met Evan was like, "Oh, you guys are focused on process so much and so heavy, and I don't know if it's too much." And then like he started to learn how we think, and then I think you really enjoyed the pillow line. Tell me if I'm wrong, Evan. And then it was like you started to develop your own thought process. And then this week you said, "Wait, I got an interesting take on the process. I kind of want to reevaluate this. We're at the midway point of the season." And I think you had some interesting takeaways on process. So I want to get that over to you tonight so you can talk about that.
Sure, yeah, there was just one small talking point I wanted to bring up at this point in the season now that we're going into week 9. Thinking in terms of, okay, you commit to a fantasy podcast like us or anybody else, you listen to whatever we put out there. Maybe it's putting Cooper Kupp in a lineup or Devontae Adams in a lineup or even Nelson Aguilar on a week where he might step up and accidentally fall into the end zone. And if it doesn't work out, then you might look at that and go, oh, well, these guys got it wrong. Screw these guys. I don't want to listen to them anymore. But that does happen with fantasy football podcasts. And if you looked at Twitter replies of anybody more famous than we are right now, they will get plenty of hate tweets or even hate emails that they may not necessarily show us. But ultimately, I never wanted to come off as a anti-process type of guy or focusing too much on process. It's just the fantasy football, no matter what format we're playing, whether it's DFS or my favorite format, Dynasty, it's ultimately an educated guessing game. And you get as much information about any particular set of teams, endless variables that you can get into, whether it's weather, who's not feeling well that day, whether it's Bijan Robinson not feeling well and unexpectedly not playing in a certain game, or whatever the case may be. That's how we get into the process of this, is that you make your moves based on the best information you can find. And sometimes you can get it completely right, or there might be just bits and pieces that you don't know about and you get it wrong. It's possible to make no mistakes and still lose, because in the end, we're not in control of what happens on that field. We just make the best guesses we can based on what the information we have, and then we go with it from there. I want to hear what you guys have to say about that.
I think that's right. And I've always thought like there's this moniker, especially it's growing larger and larger, or I guess the noise or on Twitter or social media or just like the DFS community, I guess I'll say it, at a larger scale, has when they come out with their first looks, right? First looks become popular. Review shows become popular, and then what happens is like kind of the same process of how to review a lineup or how to think about like, am I a winner or am I a loser? Was I on the right player or was I not? Kind of becomes a correlated idea between the whole industry, if that makes sense. So then what people do is they say, oh, well, DraftKings pricing was hard this week and they messed up because the pricing was, XYZ and they made running backs so expensive that you had to play these bad, wide receivers, or, they made Travis Kelce $3,000 more than any other tight end. So it forced you into builds. But I think, and I'll kick it over to Gov here because he's kind of my lineup builder. You deal with more projections and robotics and automatics and that kind of stuff. So you'll be able to give a logical approach to this, Gov. But I always thought, no matter what week it is, every week is its own. So like we're gonna review this week to learn for next week. But like I'm not gonna play Will Levis exactly the same as I did this week because his price isn't the same. And Christian McCaffrey might be a star player this week. He might be a star player next week, but the pricing is different. The matchup's different. The weather is different. Who knows? His pair key might die or something. His personal life is going to impact, like you said, these things that we cannot control. There's things he cannot control as well. And I just think every week is a new week, and I don't think enough people talk about that when it comes to reviewing as a whole. I think people just either complain, good, bad, or ugly based on their results sometimes. Does that make sense? I hope I articulated that well. Gov, do you have anything on that?
I agree with what you were like. I agree with what you were saying there, Logan. Trying to think, how would I? The words are not in my head right now on how I would.
Well, tell me if the words in my head came out clear, because I know we've had that conversation just privately.
Right, yeah. That's what I'm like. I don't really disagree with what you say, Logan, but I'm trying to figure out how I would say. I know I would say it differently. I just don't exactly have the words right now for it.
Well, let's see if Donnie, kind of I guess you'd be more experienced than Evan, but you're still so new to it. I think you have an interesting take here, maybe, Donnie. No?
Well,
Let me ask you in this way then. So
change the question.
You just won, right? You just you're starting to build a process. You're starting to build a bankroll. Last year you kind of used our bankroll. We used this group idea and we kind of branched out and have our own accounts this year. So now that you've kind of won a few times and you've gotten that thrill, does that change how you look at week to week, even if you are building within our lineups? Or how do you view a win or a loss?
I mean, I don't ever lose any money, so I just want to have some fun with it. I put what I believe will happen to the test. That's all it is. I mean, I don't think I ever lose in this scenario. That's just how I feel.
Yeah, but if you bet money, then would that what I guess what I'm asking you specifically is what changes for you? If say you put money on the line, does your process change? Would you want your process to change? Should it change? Give people that insight.
No, I mean, it just allows me the showdown this past week. There was the free one, and then there was the $20 profit. So I was just and I just diversified. That's it. That was the only difference. It just gives me the opportunity to diversify things and give me more opportunity to be wrong in spots.
Yeah. Gov, did I give you enough time to vent? Do you have any great wisdom yet?
Not really. This is that.
I get what he said.
That question came out of nowhere, not out of nowhere, but
No, it's okay to let it stew too. We can bring this back up on Saturday because we.
Well, I also with me playing all of the sports.
Yeah.
We had that day on Sunday, or where every we had a World Series game, we had the football games, or what was it? Monday there was an 11-game slate plus all the football night game, plus the World Series game, plus hockey. Like, so like me playing all the sports at once, I want to make sure I get this out right, because I do feel they all can flow together when we're playing DFS.
Mhm.
Especially the way I think about DFS, I don't really care so much about the sport, but I do believe the nuance of the sport is extremely valuable to our process, or to whatever your process may be.
Yeah.
And so,
Fine.
like,
But I think your process should change, and I think people that
yeah,
like
you do have to adjust, but like, there's also some things to like learning when and how much to adjust is sort of a nuance that everyone has to learn for themselves.
Mhm.
Like, I can't tell you should be adjusting this amount of your process this amount of the time. Like,
yeah,
there will be guys who may get a process, it might work, they may never adjust it, and then they'll get to the end once they've already lost all their stuff and be like, okay, I ran it out. Or
And there
there
might
will
not-
be people who adjust weekly, and it may help them, it may not. But like, it's to each their own in that regard. But you do need to find your process and stick to it.
yeah,
Yeah, I was going to add on to Gov's point, too, is that it's not going to look exactly the same for every single person who plays DFS, where you're just going to learn stuff as you go into this and as you follow football as closely as you can, learning about how, Kirk Cousins is terrible in prime time, rest in peace for the season, he's not healthy anymore, but then in the last primetime game he played in, he dominated. So sometimes things don't go according to plan, where if you're just going to make that bet based on a specific statistic about how he never plays well in prime time, well, okay, didn't work out this time. When he gets healthy again after the Achilles tear, is he going to be the same? Who knows?
yeah. And I was genuinely asking Donnie whether if he put $1 on the lineup, if it changes, or if he puts a certain bankroll, or if it's a free lineup, does it change? It probably should, but like the level that it changes is really up to your preference. It's your risk tolerance. Like, I was called stupid this week. I was going to talk quickly about kind of how I build lineups. And if you guys watch our lineup builder show, I know we do different pillars and sometimes we merge them. I am the biggest stars and scrub builder on this podcast. I really believe in that strategy to the point where it burns me sometimes, but other times I'm scorching hot. And I know that. And so all I do is try to put myself in the kitchen. And then I turn on all the appliances. I get prepared pretty much the same way every week. And I just hope that I can control the flame. Sometimes I get burned because I play a Zach Evans. I'll pull up my lineup this week, but I'll pull up the Zach Evans lineup where he got 0. I got a 0 this week from Traylon Burks. Again, correlated, made sense, but I got 0 because of the way I build. Everything else hit. Now, I'm not one of those guys to talk about Evans' process to be like, oh, should I have played Hopkins? Guess what? I did play Hopkins in another lineup very similar to this. I didn't know who to stack Levitz with. I knew Levitz would be low owned. I watched him in college. I knew all of his strengths, and I knew with the price at the level his ownership would be low, and I thought his skill set translated very well. I thought he'd be a poor man Justin Herbert, like in terms of his mobility, and he had like a Brett Favre-like arm with Jay Cutler-like decision making. So like he's going to give the 50-50 balls, and that's what he did. That first pass to Hopkins could have been an interception, and maybe that turns into an interception, and his day crumbles because he loses his confidence. Or like a number of things could happen, but that's how I play. Because the reason I do that, going with cheap guys like McBride, last week I went with Washington, got me 0 points, but I believe in superstars doing superstar things. So my process is always to try to get as many superstars in there and see if I can find the budding superstar. I will do that every slate. So that's my process. I got called stupid this week for this lineup, and I'm like, look, if you know my process, this is what I do. So you think I'm stupid every week, which is fine. Like, to some people, my lineup construction is stupid. I'm okay with that. I'm not defending that I made some. I mean, obviously, Traylon Burks made sense, but it was a stupid hindsight decision if you look at it in that lens. My point, and I think what Gov understood about my point was that I'm okay making that like stupid choice once in a while to make sure everything else fits. And like that's what I've accepted. Some people have a trouble accepting that, Evan, and they shouldn't build lineups like this.
Logan, could you remind people what was your thinking behind Traylon Burks in this lineup?
So I just didn't know who to stack him with. So I could show you, but for the sake of time, I had a lineup with Chig, the tight end. He was 3K. I had a lineup with Hopkins. He was 5.5K. So he was a bit more. So what I did was the Hopkins lineup, instead of playing Addison, still, like I said, still very similar to the same lineup. I built the same structure. I played Brandon Powell, the 3K receiver for the Vikings, not Addison, to get in Hopkins. Hopkins gets 37 points. The difference is Powell got 2 points. So Addison gets what, 23, 24 in this? I'm not looking at the line. He got like 20,
I think like the main winner in some of the big tournaments, I think was a legitimate 2v2 off of what you had, where they would have had Hopkins instead of Addison,
Yeah.
and then you play Shaheed as a one-off, or really as a correlation with Kamara, like full game stack New Orleans play Kamara and Shaheed.
But to be
He would have been
honest,
about the same price as Burks. He had like 20 something points, and then you would have had the 37 from Hopkins.
let's not ignore this though. Let's just say you go with the minimum defense with the Patriots. They got 5 points this week, and you could have moved up somewhere else as well from a Burks or something.
The minimum defense was the Broncos, and they actually got like 8 or 9.
They're both 2K.
Right.
Yeah, I didn't know what the Broncos defense got, but
They won that game against Kansas City. I still can't believe that.
I was before the show started, we were iffy on that spread. 7 points too much.
Well, I also think like you guys can finish up the process talk, but I want to show really quickly because we don't talk about it enough. I don't think like the different ways you can play, but the different sites too. I think a lot of big time players or players like me and Gov even who played like a lot. You mentioned it, Gov, playing a lot of sports, getting familiar. You should play a Yahoo once in a while. You should play a FanDuel. You should try these lesser populated sports with some nuance because you might find those players are kind of more experimental like yourself. Where a lot of the more high profile guys tend to stay with what they know. They tend to stay with the Millie contest, the contest they do well in. And so trying some of these other sites could be beneficial. And I forced myself to do that this year with FanDuel because I wasn't a big FanDuel player, but I did do that some this year. And that was my biggest win. I actually won $15 in a contest over on FanDuel. But we can finish this conversation. We can talk about our lineups from here. I think this is a good conversation, though.
Yeah.
Yeah. Go, Donnie.
I do want to. I want to look at like the overall scores. I forget what that part of the site's called. You know what I'm talking about?
Oh, you want me to pull up the DK dashboard?
Oh yeah, DK Live. Yeah, 1 sec.
I feel like that's a good screen to have.
Yeah, that is a good screen. Well, I mean, I really just want to point that out because, like, I know a guy who plays primarily Yahoo and does really well over there. You should try different sites. I mean, I tend to like.
There's definitely edges in different places, like especially some of the smaller stuff, like Yahoo's just starting their daily fantasy. Some of those sites will definitely have like overlay in their contests. Like, there's places to attack if you're actually doing it, and you might like the game style over there better at other places.
Well, pricing.
I like the scoring better. Like the pricing is different. Like there's different aspects to every spot. You might find one that you excel at. So I agree with you. Like I would definitely try different ones when possible. Don't overextend, but like if you got an extra couple bucks, put it on Yahoo and try those 25-cent contests and see how they are.
I do want to talk about this lineup in specific that we have pulled up, the Atlanta stack that we had. The strategy, the pillar was we're going to use the lowest scoring game, over-under game. It almost kind of worked in a sense that it was a good game to have. We were just on the wrong end of it.
Yep.
This pillar wasn't crazy as much as it did fail.
I would.
I think.
We might have
just
just lost
Evan.
Yeah. Oh,
Wait, Evan's back.
there he goes.
Oh, I didn't know I dropped out. Sorry, guys.
What were you saying?
Where did I last leave off?
Literally the
start
start of your first word.
Yeah.
Okay, let me try again. I would love to try this pillar again on Saturday with another over under. Maybe it's the lowest one again, and see if we can actually get on the right side of it.
I agree.
I would not be opposed to that either. Yeah.
We can't do it technically because I already know the lowest under because it's the lowest under so far this season, and it is Tennessee at Pittsburgh. I already bet it.
That's the Thursday night game. I was actually going to bring that up.
Yeah, we're doing Sunday.
That will be our rainmaker for the week.
I could
We
not.
don't have Pickett. I don't think Pickett is not going to play. I thought
Pickett said he's playing. I don't know, but he says he's playing.
I heard the reports yesterday saying he wasn't, and then I thought I saw something that Pickett said he was. So I'm not sure.
I read today that he is expected to play.
He's fighting with the doctors, literally fighting with the doctors.
Pickett's trying to play. I don't see why he would.
It is
unless it's that bad, but like a rib injury is one of those ones like you can usually play through that.
36 is historically low, so
yeah.
36 is super bad though. Like
it's not great, Bob. Not great.
I bet
it's not great, but I think this was 37 that we picked.
It was 37 and a half, actually, technically.
No. There was 37 and a half. It's the Jets Giants. This was 37 flat.
This was 37 flat. So yeah, but I like this. I even liked our baseline. The guys that just did what they were supposed to do. The guys who didn't snowflake, they didn't flame. I thought they were like 1 or 2 catches away, even
Yeah.
This could have went bad, but any lineup could go bad with like one twist of an ankle.
I mean, the real thing that went wrong in this lineup is Taylor Swift didn't go to the Chiefs game.
Bingo.
Yep.
And that's the only trick or treat kind of narrative that we get tonight. I'll take it.
It's so
I love
stupid.
how no one disagreed with you on that, right?
It's so dumb.
Truly,
I hate it.
I like a lot of pop culture. I would love it if this podcast would tend to go more pop culture at times. That's not the pop culture conversation that I think is interesting.
I absolutely hate this stupid trope going around, but it's so funny.
I have to bring this up though. Did you guys hear the one of the songs that the Broncos Stadium played at the end of the game when the Broncos won?
Oh yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Shake it off! Shake it off!
They were definitely They were ready.
It's so funny.
Were ready. They knew what they were doing.
Oh yeah, it's great.
How's that for pop culture, Logan?
I would be like, you know what? I can dust my shoulders off because I can easily dust them off with some gold dust. I'm a champion. You're not. Good night.
16-1. Like first time you beat Mahomes. Congrats, guys.
I can wave with my ring finger if I'm Patrick Mahomes saying, "See ya." Got it. I'm sick. I'm gonna go get some Pepto-Bismol now and have a good night.
It's great. It's great. I was so petty by the Broncos. I don't even get it.
Look, I believe in culture building though, and I think Denver is better than the saying. Like I know me and Evan had this conversation as well with the Bears, and even like a DFS conversation. if you've done bad this season, you should not think like, oh, well, I need to reinvent my process. You might need to reinvent your process, but like the totality of what you're doing probably isn't to remodel. Like it probably is just a small tweak. Like this, for example, was a small tweak away from being really good. You know.
I have a question. How much does Dobbs not being a Cardinal anymore affect McBride at all, if at all?
I think it's better for him.
If it's Clayton Tune that starts, there's going to be a lot of unknown, and I think in the first place without Kyler, a lot of people were not betting on playing Cardinals in a lot of lineups anyway, aside from like Ertz and maybe Hollywood Brown on a few lineups. So I don't think it's going to change much. People are not going to trust the Cardinals.
It's 90% sure going to be Kyler Murray. Apparently, they don't. I heard that they would not have traded Dobbs had they not believed that Kyler was going to play. So the only way he won't play, I guess, this week is if there's a setback in practice. But they are gearing up.
I 100% think Kyler's playing.
I agree.
Yeah,
which sucks because they're throwing him out against Cleveland.
What do they have against Clayton Tune? Because Dobbs was just,
Dobbs wasn't terrible when he started.
I thought Tune played really well in the preseason. I watched some of his college, especially like.
I thought the trade was trading for Dobbs made no sense to me.
Same. Yeah, I don't know why they did that anyway. I would have rather just spent a little extra $1 million and get Carson Wentz.
No. I mean,
go with the rookie haul.
No, the Vikings are starting Hall this week. They've already said that. But I mean, this is the second time Dobbs has been traded this year.
Yeah.
Donnie, they're going to play.
That poor guy. No, Dobbs is not playing. They've announced Dobbs will not play this week.
This week. Yeah, that's because of the trade. They did not trade for him to have him be a
backup. I agree. If you were going to get a backup, you would have signed someone.
Right, to Evan's point, it doesn't make sense to him.
No, there's better quarterbacks on the free agency. I didn't understand that, but I'm thinking it's just a discount move.
I don't think Wentz is better at all.
But either way, it kind of makes sense that Dobbs needs time to learn the playbook. They don't want to make him play like Baker Mayfield and just learn it 36 hours in advance.
Speaking of learning, what did we learn from our other pillars, though, in these other lineups? Because I thought we had some good lineups this week. We did cash, and I kind of like that we didn't mention that right off the top because we are so process-focused. We don't want to just focus on cash, but we did have some interesting builds. Why don't you pull up another one? Go.
So here was the second one where we each picked our favorite piece of chalk and then tried to build a lineup around it.
Yep.
This one wasn't bad. It missed cash by less than a point.
Yeah. I do like these lineups because I think each one of us do such a great job of coming up with a core and having these building blocks and like having our favorite plays. And then if you merge our ideas, like our ideas individually are so different, but together it's almost like we become the Power Rangers. I mean that in its cheesiest form, but also kind of true. Like we are better united than we are apart. Because I am such a stars and scrub builder, and yet Gov follows so much analytics that I don't follow. Like merging our two ideas together, it creates an interesting combination, you know.
Logan, when we build lineups on Saturday, are we just going to be like, guys, it's morphin' time?
No, let's do it.
No.
That's such a good reference, though.
No.
Even the youngest one on the podcast does that one. Even Don picked that up.
I haven't heard that in so long, and I love it.
By the way, flashback, if you guys haven't liked and subscribed and checked out our earlier videos, Donnie still has to watch Back to the Future talking about pop culture. So let's just pivot that really quickly as we transition. We need you to watch Back to the Future, Donnie. But speaking of Back to the Future, what did you like about this lineup, Donnie?
This lineup in specific, honestly, my favorite part is probably just trusting that Burrow is, Burrow. we knew we had running backs that was going to get volume.
Mm-hmm.
It all came down to whether Burrow was going to play well, honestly, in my opinion. Like, we got kind of lucky with Hayward getting 7.
Mm-hmm.
The Vikings defense, 10 points, that was great. And the rest of it kind of just fell. I mean, Flowers 22% owned Snowflake, that's fine. Tank Dell, that's the only one that just, like, really shocked me. But,
Yeah.
I actually have a follow-up question. I'll just open it up, open floor, and if you guys don't have anything, it's okay. But I've been listening to different podcasts and different ways to kind of review lineups and just think about process. And I actually stumbled across this young guy who's just in college who's kind of like tuck on DFS from a player pools perspective. So he's like when he builds lineups, he almost uses our pillar idea, but almost as like a player pool. So he's not looking at like pricing as much as he's looking at like collections of players. Like he'll group the quarterbacks together, right? Every 8K quarterback goes into a pile, every 8K running back goes into a pile, and then he selects off of it. And it's like his player pool. And then so when he does his reviews, he was saying this week, Gov, that he thinks that this week is going to be pivotal, this upcoming week, because he thinks that a lot of the casuals will get out of the market. A lot of the guys who may have dabbled in DFS are going to get out, and we're going to get the more experienced players. So he was saying that he thinks you have to have a tighter player pool this week and a more condensed player pool. Do you believe that, or do you think you should be more freewheeling like I do, and you play the one-off, Will Levis, and you take those home run shots? Or do you think it's just a week-to-week thing?
It's usually just a week-to-week thing. Like, I do think as the season goes on, things get tighter. The casuals do drop out, and it will be just the more experienced players. But that just means the ownership game. Now, like, certain guys are going to come in a little higher owned because everyone's a little sharper. So you might not have to go as far out on a limb to a Will Levis. You might have been able to play more like the Sam Howell, who was in a good environment and people were playing, and still be different. Just the margin that you have to slide, that leverage slider.
Right.
Sorry, excuse me. That is probably going to get shorter, but that's just an adjustment week to week.
Yeah.
You know what I like best about this lineup?
What?
The fact that all these Bengals that we played should be at least higher than 10%. And they were all so lowly drafted that they were excellent plays to stick in there. And the floor was at least high enough with these guys that you're not trying for a home run hit with something like a Will Levis. We're going with proven guys, and they're owned so low.
It's because they were playing the Niners off 2 losses. I genuinely believe that.
Yeah.
Yeah,
the
I mean
Niners at home off those losses. Yeah.
Yep, it makes total sense, but I mean, with how hot the
also going into their bye week, so it was sort of a trap week, to be honest.
Yeah, I mean, it was a prime comeback for the Bengals, but I can understand why people doubt them.
Oh, I wanted to bring up an interesting point too. While we bring up just taking shots on ownership and upside, I think in hindsight, people will be like, well, I was never going to play Will Levis, but Hopkins was probably a good play. There's a good chance. I'm going to be honest with you. I played Hopkins in that correlation. I think he only made sense if you correlated him. And the score looks good. I'll pull the score up here. He had 37. He wasn't even the top wide receiver. It was CeeDee Lamb, who just went off with Dak Prescott. We could talk about that if we wanted to. But the reason I bring up Hopkins is I think people would associate his career with targets and volume. This week, he actually didn't have that. So, kind of what we talked about with Joe Burrow, it's sometimes you have to just know talent and trust it without knowing that you're going to get the result. I thought for sure when I played Hopkins, I was going to get 8 to 9 targets, right? I did not think I was going to get 37 points. Obviously, I take the end result. I would take it every time. But if you told me this is how he was going to get to the 37 points, there's no way in hell I would have came up with this scenario.
Exactly, because like I've said over and over again on this show, touchdowns are such a fluid statistic. You can't bank on them and expect them to hit reliably. And it would be a long shot if there was anybody in the hundreds of thousands of people who play on DraftKings who was going, "Oh yeah, Hopkins totally going to score 3 touchdowns in this game." I mean, at that point, you'd have to ask them what's going to happen in the future.
Right. Well, I mean, I brought up Evans and then I brought up Wheelup. It's a similar, like low owned, high upside plays, taking chances on rookies. I'll bring up another one. Last week, you know who also got 6 targets? Who also got 2, deep end zone targets? Jamison Williams. Same as Hopkins. Got 6 of them. Same as Hopkins. Didn't catch a single one. One was under.
To Evan's point, the winning lineup in the tournament, I threw it in that large field dime.
Yeah, I got it right here. Thank you.
Hopkins is 1.2% owned
Yeah.
in that tournament. And that's a tournament with 100,000+ people in it. That means there were less than 1,000. There was basically 1,000 lineups that played Hopkins.
Yep.
And at 0.3%, there was only like that. There were more people who won off Hopkins than who played Will Levis. Or I guess maybe all of those Hopkins would have been. Let's look at our own lineups to see. 2.4% Ritter. So most of the Hopkins were probably bringbacks on the Ritter stats.
I almost guarantee that.
And then the 0.3% that had Will Levis probably, other than Logan, probably stacked Hopkins with him exclusively, or at least if they doubled, they definitely got Hopkins.
And to be fair, Gov, I didn't do it everywhere. Like, I thought Levis was going to be good because of his price.
I played some Chig myself. I thought you're not wrong, but I did not stack.
I love young quarterbacks with tight ends.
Well, because I did it because I'm like, if Will Levis, if he throws a touchdown and this is more of a 50-50 split and Malik Willis does get in the game more, then all I need him to do is get 10 to 15 points. Because I think the ownership would be low enough. And maybe Willis gets more usage, but his first touch in that game happened to be a fumble after Will was really moving the ball well. So, who's to tell? Maybe that fumble doesn't happen and Vrabel has more faith and, but see, that's the thing is I'm willing to accept those things. And like what Evan was saying initially with the process is you really have to do that. And I know privately me and Evan talked about how much this game is luck versus skill. And we can disagree on that to the certain percentage, but everyone here knows there is a luck factor and there is a skill factor. Maybe Donnie thinks that's 20% different than Gov and vice versa, or whatever. We all agree on the factors, and we all play within the same bounds. It's just how you build it.
Yeah. Let's move to the next lineup.
Our best lineup.
This is the lineup I like the least. I want to point that out.
How so?
I did not think Carr's ceiling was that high.
Indy looks to be the carnival this year.
I don't think it is.
They're just putting up high-scoring games with everyone. 39-31 against Cleveland.
Yeah. Honestly,
that might just be something to look at from this point on. Stream against Indy, and you might be fine.
Yeah. And my favorite play in this lineup, well, not favorite, but probably my third favorite play in this lineup, Puka, failed. So, this is not a lineup I would have ever gotten.
I'll be honest with you, Donnie. I didn't say it on the Saturday show, but I was not a fan of playing Carr either, despite the juicy matchup against Indy, and that's just because this Saints offense is so unstable, so questionably coached.
It looks better with Kamara.
Yeah, I think Kamara unlocks a lot of what their offense wants to do.
Yeah, sure, but
as does San Fran wouldn't look as good without McCaffrey. They'd have a power run game and good weapons, but we've seen that even with Garoppolo kind of be inefficient. With McCaffrey, they always have offense. It's just, can they be efficient with Purdy and not make mistakes?
Right. And I don't want this to sound like I'm saying Derek Carr sucks, because I don't think he sucks at all. I think he's a good quarterback. It's just in this system he's been struggling. And I mean, you could even see with the one fumble he had. That's just one tiny example, but it just happened to work out because Indy's defense sucks. So
Yeah.
To be honest,
mazel tov to us.
to be honest, I'm off the Derek Carr train lately. His footwork's kind of sloppy, in my opinion. Lately, I don't think it's been great.
Well, I was always high in the Saints this year. I was high in Derek Carr. I have a Derek Carr season-long bet in FanDuel. I could show the receipts for that. I mean, it would be hyperbole for me to jump off of it. Now, I will say he is very good against cover 3 as well, because he does like to go underneath. That is Kamara's strength. It was a perfect matchup for him. But an underrated thing about that as well is also the price. Like, I don't think we play Derek Carr if he's 7,000. You know,
We don't play him for free, to be honest.
but I don't play Will Levis if he's like, 6,000 either. Like, that's why I tried to tell the guy in the chat this week live. It's like we have to consider price. You have to. It has
do.
to.
That's true. Like, there is a value score you need to hit at price, and sometimes, even if you don't believe in the talent of the player, if his value score is not that high, he can still hit it at a reasonable clip where you have to consider him.
Like, I'll be honest, in this lineup, I think our mistake actually wasn't our snowflake. I think our snowflake was just bad luck. I think if Stafford stays in that game, which we can't predict, which I will eat because, I mean, that's a forecast thing that we can't predict. And sometimes we're going to benefit from the things we can't predict.
And even when he was playing, he wasn't great. I mean,
but I've seen Stafford enough to know that he usually plays good from behind. So he's a second half guy. That's usually when the Rams throw the most. Like, if we're talking about narrative, I think Puka would have got there with Stafford. Who knows? I think Terry McLaurin was a lot chalkier, and he probably was the guy we probably should have considered getting off.
I was about to say, if we could have flipped that to be like AJ Brown instead of Puka, and then
this was
And
our
then
favorite
like a hot
value
piece or
plays
something,
lineup. Like, the core was favorite value plays. I saw the value in McLaurin.
well, it was just like favorite conviction play on the slate. I had Brees.
Right.
Yeah.
And it's not to say like, oh, if Donnie didn't make selections this week, we would have won, guys. Let's get rid of Donnie. Let's put him out like a
Listen, Old Yeller needs to be put down.
I'm just saying what we probably could have done is either correlated it with Terry McLaurin or not, because Terry McLaurin was going to be chalky. So like, we probably should have tried to figure out a way to get an Eagle in the lineup.
I think it was me who picked Puka for this lineup because I was thinking that Dallas's defense is struggling, and I figured he'd carve him up, but I was wrong. So I'll eat it.
Right. So that's what that is. And I was fine with. I really liked our lineup this week. I didn't have a single problem with them. They were fun sweats. I guess that's kind of where I want to go now. Is like, I want to ask you guys just a stupid question, but I think it's an important one. Do you guys enjoy the pillar? Is it a fun way to think about build?
Absolutely.
Yes.
100%.
The pillar has changed our lineups drastically weekly.
Thank you. And I really want to emphasize that, because like the young guy that did the podcast was talking about his player pool, and just like, guys, instead of worrying about like, oh, the season's half over and like, now it's going to be smart people and I have to do this. He's like, keep doing the things that are working. Keep doing the things that are fun. Tighten it up. Like, keep doing the things that are working for you. Like, make slight adjustments to make it more fun. If it doesn't work, then at least you had fun. The worst thing you can do is feel like, well, this guy told me to play this, or Evan's a Bears fan, so I got to try to get a DJ Moore in there, or Gov told me that Chuba Hubbard's no good, so I'm going to take Chuba Hubbard out of my lineup. Like, I don't think Gov ever would play Chuba Hubbard, but I don't think he probably would build a good Chuba Hubbard lineup because it's not his style. I could take a cheap.
I mean, I love playing cheap running backs, but like, no, I would never really play Chuba.
Yeah.
I'll give
and
you
I was just using it as an example, of course. Of
the I understand what you're saying, but like,
right.
Yes.
But if you give somebody the wrong tools, of course, it's going to seem like a weapon in their hands, or vice versa. A tool to somebody is a weapon to another. So that's how it is. Like the guys that were ribbing me this week about playing Will Levis, I try not to take it personal because I'm like, you know what? I don't think they could build good Will Levis lineups either. Because I'm so used to the muck lineups that like that's kind of how I build. That's how I build my basketball lineups. That's how I build my hockey lineups, and I don't even know that much about hockey. Donnie, is there one like pillar or one thing that you do with lineups that like you feel like you do better than most people? Because that would be an interesting conversation to close on. Anything you guys feel like you do better than the field?
Oh, I mean, I wouldn't say better. I think that's a little bit much. But I would say the casual fan who just comes and does DK randomly is definitely behind what we, doesn't strategize as much as we do, I guess would be the...
I'm going to blow your horn a little bit for you, Donnie, because one thing I'm really admire about your game, and this is full transparency, is for a young guy who hasn't had a ton of experience in DFS, you have very good bankroll management. Like very good, and it proves because now you have some bankroll, and you still like continue to build that compound interest, and I'm impressed by that. Like I think you have a very measured approach to like. Because I built enough lineups with you now, Donnie. You week to week, you never get outside your board and be like, well, you know what, guys, I picked who's that? Hardman. You liked Hardman a couple weeks ago. You're not telling us every week to play Hardman because you had that idea once. Like that was an idea. That was a one-off idea for that week.
Well, I wouldn't say it was a one-off idea. I'll get back to it eventually, I'm sure.
Right.
Urgalor!
But I mean, Johnny, you'll get back to the process.
Excuse me. I'm going to pour me some tea. I got something in my throat there.
It's back to you.
I'm sorry. There's something in my throat. Yeah.
Evan, has there been something like, I know you haven't played a long time, but it's something you really enjoyed about DFS that something you didn't anticipate maybe that you really enjoyed?
I mean, this might sound like a no shit type of statement to make, but it's really helped me think much more, and not to the point of galaxy braining it, but to just making me try to think even, not necessarily harder, but smarter about who I put in my lineups. Even when I have a limited set of shares of players in traditional fantasy football formats, redraft, dynasty, whatever the fuck, that it's at least getting me, getting my feet wet, so to say, if I were to dive into a more serious, consistent basis to play DFS, which I don't right now, but I'm at least doing, the free contests on Yahoo just for the hell of it, just to see if what I help preach and what you guys have preached at least help me place well on a week-to-week basis. And Logan, I think that we had a fourth lineup that isn't here on the screen right now.
Yeah,
I don't know if we had time to look at it.
Thanks for reminding me about that. I'm getting a hold of it. I'll pull that line up. And special ramifications. That's why Gov didn't have it in here because it is a Sunday through Monday, which allowed us to play another single entry, which is a strategy unto itself. You should enter as many single entries and like one-off kind of contests as well if you want to have return on investment. If you want to just like have lottery tickets, that's fine too. But just know the contest you're entering. As I vamp to try to pull up this lineup, but I'll have it up here in a minute. It should be easy to, yeah, here it is.
Yeah. But while we're pulling that up, what did you guys think of what I had to say?
No, I thought you made some really good points there. And that's the thing is like watching things develop and being like, this might sound simple, but sometimes keep it simple, stupid is the truest way to do things. And Evan, that's why I always saw in you the potential of bringing you on the show was like this guy appreciates football in such a long scope way because I knew you were a dynasty guy. I'm like, if I can just convince him that it's a strategy game and just get him into that, he will pick up the ropes. Like you'll become a natural, and that's what you did. Gov, you got anything on these two guys, like or yourself? Like, how, when you like build lineups or when you have processes, like, what do you think you're really good at? Because I have some ideas, but like, what do you think you're good at if you had to guess?
Oh wow.
It's such a tough question. It really
That
is.
is like that's a good introspective question that people should like ask themselves more often.
That's why
What have,
I
I
brought it
will
up.
what
say-
have I been doing well?
I will say, if I have an answer for that for Gov, but I want to see what he says first.
I kind of like the lead the witness idea, though. Donnie, what do you got for me?
I do not trust anyone more on finding a cheap running back, to be honest. From the little amount of people I know that play, his cheap running backs generally aren't the worst. And
I'm
I'm
too
not a
ri-
huge fan.
I'm too risky for you, ain't I? I go streaking too much.
I wish I would have
Yeah.
played Gus this week too. Now that you remind me of that, I'm like, oh,
I think everyone does. But he's failed so much. I not failed, but he hasn't smashed.
that's true. But okay. I mean, yes, I love playing running backs. I'm not sure I always hit on them, but I can usually find a good. I can usually find like a couple of cheap ones that are at least viable, and one of them usually hits.
Like Logan's my cheap receiver guy. Gov, he's my cheap running back guy.
See, you guys tell me if I'm wrong, but I think one of my best skill sets is I am very stubborn, which can hurt me sometimes. But like, so when I believe something, I have full conviction to it, and like I know I have a conviction, so it's like I know I'm gonna get hate or gonna get hazed or gonna get pushback. So I will like study up on how people are going to attack it, which actually makes me study it more, which usually makes me to love it even more. But then I'll have a conviction, and then like I live with the results. I'm not afraid to be wrong about things. I've always
And I
had-
will say, speaking of wrong, preview into Saturday, I think you're so wrong about Juju. But
at 3,100, he's too cheap. Talk about a preview or precursor for next week.
I
3,100.
know. I know. I just don't like the guy. I don't think he's good.
I will tell you
But-
this, and this is true as of today. I don't know what it'll be like on Saturday. If you guys didn't build lineups with me, he's in 80% of my lineups. Like obviously that will change because there might be injuries, something else comes up. You guys will have different pillars and make me come off of it a bit. But right now, he's in 80% of my lineups, and I have no problem with that.
I mean, 3,100, 3,100. I mean, that's so cheap. And he will get time on the field, and there's not many 3,100 receivers that you can say that.
And usually I like rookies that are 3,100 or touchdown veterans that are 3,100. Like usually it's tight ends, but
I just hate the word touchdown and Juju in the same sentence.
Well, speaking of which, this is Evan's pillar lineup, and Gov did find us one of the best running backs. I found us the second one, which you could argue was a receiver, by the way, because he got so much receiving work. And Gibbs, this was a really boom or bust lineup, and I didn't hate the idea of it, but man, if we would have got some more just consistency, even just shaving a bit off our boom guys, and we just get a more balanced lineup, we do fine. But even the guys who Snowflake Gov, I didn't think I think if you played this slate 10 times, we don't get this result even ever again. Like I really don't. This is a weird result.
So,
Like,
you know what I think the issue was? We just focused the wrong games. Like,
did we?
Well, which ones were wrong?
I disagree with you, Donnie. I'm gonna be honest.
are
with
the
you.
wrong sides of games, maybe.
So we're talking like the Chicago side, the Carolina side.
Well,
Like the only thing that failed was the stack. To be honest, like,
Yeah.
if you look at
Yeah.
the
I
lineup,
should say the wrong
Eckler
game.
was fine. Gibbs was fine. The
Gibbs was
correlation
great.
with they were actually very good. But like the correlation of both of them was fine. It was like DJ Moore didn't help. That was like DJ Moore was the one snowflake that we didn't need, and then Stroud, Shark, Schultz did not hit.
but No, go ahead, Evan. Go ahead.
Yeah, so that was going to lead me into another question. So, DJ Moore has been a surprisingly good play for several weeks earlier in the season, in addition to Dalton Schultz getting you cheap tight end volume, and then he accidentally falls in the end zone. DJ Chark, I wouldn't consider a great play, but at least at 3,800, he's at least a good dart throw. My question was more DJ Moore and Dalton Schultz and Jacoby Myers. Could we call them wrong plays, being that they've been terrific this season?
See, both of those Chicago's offense
And
basically
Stroud's
did
good.
nothing. Had it done anything that night, DJ Moore probably is the benefactory. Same thing with like Vegas. Like, not so much with Jacoby. Like, he'd been getting a massive target share. So like, if Garoppolo was able to do anything, he would have probably done something. Although you would have also assumed it'd been Adams. But like, DJ Moore is the number one. So if Justin Fields was having a good day, DJ Moore would have had a much better day. It was just like, when we decided to stack those two games first, and then one team in each of those games does nothing, that was going to hurt the lineup.
Right.
Guys,
So
I'm
like,
gonna
other
say-
than that, like we like Eckler and Gibbs did what they needed to push those games. It was just Chicago and Vegas. Oh wow, of course it was Chicago and Vegas who surprised us and were bad teams.
They were bad teams, but usually you get volumes with Myers. I was going to mention Brock Wright, the third tight end for the Lions, or the second sometimes, depending on injuries, saw the same amount of targets as Myers and one target last night. Myers coming into that game in the last two had seen like 33 targets. So to Evan's point, I don't know if you can say we were on the wrong plays. I think we just got extremely unlucky. And that's a week where we pulled $60 profit if you consider my personal lineups. So I'm okay with that because you're not always going to be right. But I think we're on the right place. The last time Dalton Schultz had under 3 points was like week 2 of the season.
Right. And this has been an offense that's been throwing the ball a lot and been adequate, and they did not play well this past week.
Yeah, that was the thing. The stack also, like, one side of each of the Monday and Sunday night games failed.
Yeah.
And then the stack we chose from our Sunday game also failed.
But that being said, I don't think we get 32. I would not have projected almost 32 points from Gibbs in this game. I would have projected 25.
It was bound to happen. I'm going to be honest with you, Logan. I think it was really bound to happen.
It was bound to happen. I'm saying you can't predict it, though. Like, the usage was there, and I think this lineup actually had great usage. It's just, unfortunately, we didn't get it all at the same time, because if we did, I think we would have easily cashed. Like, to me, this is like a $10 lineup at worst. At least in the money.
Yeah, I wasn't. I've been, saying I'm not a big fan of Myers, though I can admit that wasn't a bad play, and that's
Yeah.
I explained it all on Saturday's show why I'm not a big fan of Myers playing in fantasy. Yeah, I don't want to get into it 2 shows in a row. So, if you want to hear that, go back. But it failed. I'm still fine with the play. It made a lot of sense.
I just pulled up a random lineup to show you this guy. Like, he's probably disappointed with Lamar Jackson and Flowers, but at least it made sense. And that's what I was going to point out is, please make sure your lineups make sense. Like, that's the one thing we can control is the sensibility that we put behind these lineups. So,
Correct.
if you're going to build a primetime, pillar lineup, then put primetime guys in your lineup. Put guys that correlate. Don't say like, oh, well, I want to play a primetime slate. I want to try this idea. I'm even going to try this idea for the first time this week. Oh, I'm going to play all 1 o'clock guys. At least make sure it makes sense. I think we did that.
So I guess that leads me into a new question. Are we interested on Saturday's show to build another Sunday night and Monday night lineup with the primetime games again, with one pillar?
I'm okay with that because it gives me the single entry, and I was like, kind of everyone has this, one chance. Like, I really like those builds. Does anyone have a problem with doing this? Because this reminds me of the old school days where you guys wouldn't have remembered. Obviously, I mean, you started playing this year. They the main slate used to have the Sunday night game on it always, right? And then
Yes.
they realized they could make more money if they had Sunday be a single.
They made the
game.
show they used to have it on the slate, but then they also started making the showdown slates and making that sort of format for Thursday and Monday night. But
right.
once that started to become more of a thing, it's like, you know what? Why don't we just do that and then make the Sunday slate a little smaller?
And I'll be honest, it was a good decision because they built a whole industry and a whole empire really around that. And it was a brilliant idea. But there was a real strategy because what you would do is you would actually have like an hour and a half between the end of the 4 o'clock games and the Sunday games. So if you had like PMR left, you were looking at all the swappabilities you could do. I mean, there was some real strategy behind it that's totally gone now. And I think that's why I personally like PMR. Like, I've never really thought of it, but I think that's why I like PMR so much because I used to play in those days. And like PMR was like, it truly was gold back then. Yeah. Speaking of gold, we do have to build a Steelers Rainmaker lineup. Gov, are you ready for that? Or do you want me to? I'm sure Evan's got some more questions or somebody's got some questions. We can fill some air for you if you need.
Yeah, give me 1 second. I'll pull it up.
Yeah. So I guess the only other thing I'll say too is I had it on the top of my head and it went away. If it comes back, I will let you know.
Well, it's okay because you gave Gov enough time to get the lineup out of his head onto the screen. So I'm gonna kick it back over to Gov.
All right. So from our collection, this is what we have. Now I've chosen to put Pickens at captain, but would you guys put a different person at captain?
It's just that with the return of Deontay Johnson, that does eat into Pickens' volume, and he'd have to just fall into the end zone for it to be a good play. Am I wrong?
I just want Henry at captain, to be honest. He's our superstar. We put the most into him. I want to see the
I'm so sorry to tell you, we are at week 9. They changed the superstars to whoever is the top.
Oh, can we do that?
So, basically, here's what we saw. Henry, Chubb, and Jonathan Taylor all dropped superstar status at running back. Raheem Mostert and Travis Etienne took it on.
Really? That's crazy to give it to Raheem. I'm sorry.
I mean, with the seasons he's having, he's top 5 in running back scoring on the year. I'm not.
A-Chain's gonna come back.
Oh, and I have A-Chains that are ready and waiting to go.
I will say the thing
trust me.
The thing I love about,
yes, go real quick, yeah.
No, the thing I love about Henry is from what I saw about the Will Levis thing, because I have red zone, and obviously when you make a play like that, you're going to watch every single snap and pray. Pray yards were really in effect last week, and he really targeted running backs. Henry actually, I think, saw the most targets of his career with Will Levis, and that was his first game.
I'm sorry. I really want to captain Henry, really bad.
No, that's fine. I will let us make the decision, and I don't mind captaining Henry. He's probably one of the top scorers in that game.
Spears was questionable, but so was Henry. So
yeah, to keep reviewing the superstar status. So you lost. You had those 3 running backs lose, and then Mostert and Etienne grabbed it. You had CeeDee Lamb and Devontae Adams lost superstar status. It was given to DJ Moore and Adam Thielen.
Wow.
Gov, can I get in there?
That's it for the rest of the season, right?
That will be the final for the rest of the season. But that means what is crazy now is that means now there's no restriction on Adams and Lamb. So you can now build a lineup with CeeDee Lamb and Devontae Adams in it.
Along with Justin Jefferson once he comes back.
You could put them with you. Justin Jefferson wasn't even a now you could pair them with Christian McCaffrey.
Okay, yeah, that's
fuck off, and just see screw that. Or you could put those guys at the end of a Mahomes lineup with Kelsey and just say all the points.
Mm-hmm.
or a Josh Allen lineup with Diggs.
Week whatever it will be, week 16, week 17, I don't know. When the Raiders Chiefs played, you have a Mahomes, Adams, Kelsey stack.
And you wouldn't have been able to do that. You would have had to choose between Mahomes or Adams. Are you stacking
Right.
Adams and probably playing Garoppolo, or are you playing Mahomes? You could play Kelsey either way.
Mm-hmm.
But
Now,
those were decisions you had to make, especially in showdown. Like you could only play one in your showdown lineup.
Yeah.
So to finish out our Rainmaker lineup, we have our guys.
Yep.
This is the rest of the collection I have. I luckily thought beginning of the year, I'm like, oh, here's a dead quarterback I'll never use. So I have a Will Levis already ready to go.
I knew you had one.
I also, through random pack rips, have basically the rest of the Pittsburgh offense.
I'm going to leave that up to
Najee,
you.
Freiermuth? You want Deontay? Do you want Deontay?
I would like to put in Deontay. If we have to put him in over Pickens, I'd be in favor of that, but I'll hear what you guys think.
Well, I was going to pick which one he gives us because we've been trading our last pick. He took our Henry a couple weeks ago. He took some of our Lawrence when it made sense for him. So, but I don't want to limit any of his lineups. So, I'm okay with really any of the options. But if you want to play a Will Levis to try to capitalize on the hot start, I would understand that too.
I have something that Logan's gonna hate, and I think it's gonna be great, and it's gonna be the play of the week possibly. And I'm sad it's not on a showdown or that it's on a showdown slate. I want Steelers defense really bad. If you have it,
that would be great. Actually,
wait.
I have multiple copies.
Hold on, though. I'm okay with the defense, but you want to captain Henry and then play the defense?
I don't think it's impossible for Henry to get 2 touchdowns and Levis
I
to throw
have the
3.
Tennessee defense if you wanted to play it.
I don't want that.
Yeah, they're not good enough. The Steelers' defense is better.
The Steelers' defense is dominant, and they're
that's
playing
not-
a rookie quarterback off his second game.
If we're doing
on
the
a short
Steelers
week.
defense, though, I wouldn't
That's not
captain
smart.
Henry.
That's fine. We can not captain Henry, but I just thought of Steelers
Okay.
defense, and
Yeah.
okay.
I have that again. When I said I have the rest of the Steelers team, I wasn't freaking lying.
No.
I'm okay
I think this Steelers defense. I'm fine if it's wrong, but I'm banking on a young quarterback off a very short week against one of the best defenses in the league, against one of the best pass rushers we've seen in a while, in TJ Watt.
No, I'm okay with it. I spoke about it, Donnie. It's
Do you
not
go
my
back to
favorite
Pickens
one.
at captain? Do you do Pickett himself? Are you captaining the defense? What are we doing?
I don't think I can convince anyone to captain the defense, so
You
I'll go.
certainly cannot. Yeah.
No,
Yeah.
you cannot. No,
Although
And I
it
don't
is a
think
rookie
you could.
quarterback on the road against Pittsburgh.
That's Galaxy rating, though. Let's be honest.
not in the PPR website. The wide receiver, I think it has to be a wide receiver.
So, I would put Pickens in. I am also not against what Evan said. So, do you want to do Pickens or Deontay?
Well,
okay with
here's
either.
my question. We have to play quarterback, right? Or no?
No. I
Quarterback
could put
has,
Deontay instead of Pickett.
I would lean Najee. To be honest,
no,
Why?
Well,
Okay.
yeah,
If we're
please
playing the
explain
defense.
why you're
If we're
leaning that
playing-
way.
No.
If we're playing the defense, are we saying it's a low-scoring game that just
Donnie,
gets controlled?
If you're playing the defense, you're playing them to dominate, right? If they dominate, they're playing Warren, not Harris.
Maybe. I don't know their running back situation, to be honest. So
It's pretty much a split backfield that I want no part of.
Harris is only seeing his carries have went down.
yeah,
Yeah.
I don't know how bad they went down. I know.
Against the Jaguars, he had 52% of the snaps and he only got 7 carries for 13 yards, but he made up for it with 5 catches. So that's just
That's why. See, I have seen his fantasy points not go down, and that's probably why.
Yep. He just makes up for it in other ways, and then Jalen Warren is anywhere between 46 to 48% of the snaps. It's a split backfield.
What I would do is play Will Levis. You just play for the sack. You play that he has a safe floor, and
I
we
don't-
really just
Hold on. You're playing he has a safe floor,
yeah.
but you also argue that he's, a Jameis Winston, Brett Favre, Matthew Stafford type player. To me,
Safe
that's his
floor-
high ceiling, low floor.
No, safe floor because of the position, because he's a quarterback who's going to touch the ball every time.
If he has a game where T.J. Watt harasses the shit out of Levis, I don't want to play Will Levis.
A high blitzing defense against a young quarterback. I'm sorry, I don't like it.
And that
On a
Titans,
short week,
yeah, and that Titans offensive line is ass too.
Gov, you've been quiet. It really doesn't matter to me. We need to make sure Pickens is in the lineup for me and Henry. Outside of that,
Agreed.
I don't
Like,
yeah, no. I would say defense. Pickett
because
probably.
of the fact
Henry.
that normally when Deontay gets there, it's just on,
I don't care about the last
our
spot.
volume. I would consider. Okay, well here's the crazy thought. We have $3. We can't buy Hopkins. His floor is $30. So unfortunately, we can't do that.
What is Levis's price at? Just curious.
Looks like it's like $650.
That's still too cheap.
I was thinking I might see if it gets like 8 and then sell mine. I don't know, but okay. Do you want to grab a kicker for like 50 cents, 75 cents? Jalen Warren's $1.
Nick Folk and Chris Boswell are not having stellar seasons. I don't want to touch either.
I agree on
Chig's
that.
25 cents.
He barely gets enough targets.
He's seen a lot of
Yeah.
targets though with Will. He saw I think 6 this week.
Yep. Traylon Burks.
No, honestly, because of Logan,
gave
he's
Logan a
slowly-
0. 26 cents.
Because of Logan, Traylon Burks is unironically probably my least favorite player that I have no reason to hate.
He already got it. He already got his 4 points this season.
I'm honestly fine with Pickett personally, but
I
if
think we
for
go
some
Pickett.
reason he doesn't play, I then go to Najee.
I would go to
Yeah.
Like I'm not wanting. I think with Mitch Trubisky, they definitely run it more, and so Najee at least could carry the ball 1 or 2 extra times, maybe.
This is
And-
assuming that Pickett's
And he
going to
loves
play.
running back.
I
this is
assume Pickett's playing, so I don't mind the lineup we have here.
Okay. Because we can always swap in Trubisky if we have to, right?
Right. Well, not Trubisky. We don't have Trubisky.
No,
to acquire a Trubisky is $1.
We're not buying.
Yeah, we're not.
Yeah,
buying
we're not
it.
buying.
No,
Seems
if
a bit high.
I was
Yeah.
about to say if I can get a Chig for 25 cents, I'm not buying a Trubisky for $1.
If I can play Najee for free, we're not buying a Chig for 25 cents.
I'm telling you, Will Levis has some rushing upside too. I don't think it's a terrible idea to play him in the defense.
I think it is a terrible idea to
I-
play this against the Pittsburgh Steelers defense.
I'm not big on playing him against the defense.
I don't want
If
any part of
If
the
we were
Titans.
going to play Levis,
No,
I would
no,
play
no, no,
Levis
Here's
in place
my
of the defense. And
here's
do,
my declarative
Levis
statement,
and
and
know you're
everyone
getting
can
all of Tennessee's points. Sorry.
go. People can track this, and I'll own him to it. We'll track it on Saturday. I'll come. That'll be the first thing I tell you whether I was right or wrong. He had 11 rushing yards last week. He will eclipse 11 rushing yards on Thursday.
He might have to if they want even a chance to be in the game.
Why would that be a good thing, though, Logan?
Because he's a rushing quarterback.
Well, that's a stretch to say he's a rushing quarterback when he had 11 rush.
Yeah, and he did his damage against a
No.
shitty Falcon defense, though. I mean, the Steelers is a
No.
way better defense.
Johnny, hold on. I'm going to call you out. How many games have you watched of him?
One, but there's a difference
Exactly.
between college
me.
and NFL.
Yeah, but he takes off. Trust me on that. I know what I'm talking about. He's not just a lucky like Brock Purdy. He'll take off when nothing's there.
I'm not saying he's slow, but I'm not going to call Mahomes a rushing quarterback, but he sure can run.
Well, I'm just saying he's got mobility.
Yeah,
So-
but it's different to be a rushing quarterback and to be mobile, though.
Everybody has to be mobile in today's NFL. That's not an accomplishment anymore.
Uh, That's a good.
That's a little stretch, but
Let people sound off on that. That'll be the people's question, if you will. Tell us in the comments whether you believe in the last two statements. Because I disagree, but we're up against the time. I don't want to run on forever. Gov already put this lineup in. He's ready for bed. Any last things you guys want to mention before we get out of here?
Let's go Magic.
No,
Yes.
no one's ever said that.
I say that all the time. What are you talking about?
I'm a Magic guy, man.
He's the last one left.
Hey, I like Franz Wagner. He's a Michigan guy.
I'm the Magic man.
I like Franz.
I
like Franz a lot.
I'm the Magic man.
And I really do like Jonathan Isaac if he ever plays like half a season.
He played yesterday versus the Lakers. Then he
No,
sat
he
out.
got it.
He played. Yeah. I didn't know he played against the Lakers. I pay attention to Jonathan Isaac. I think he has a lot of potential when he plays.
That is an amazing Harden trade for the Clippers, though. Like I still don't believe how top heavy they're going to be. We can get into that, but like later.
Yeah, not tonight. Not tonight. I don't even want to talk Harden tonight. Me and Logan argued so much over. No, not argued, but you know.
Everyone's already jamming on his keyboard trying to exit this conversation.
They literally traded Harden for like a hot dog and a hot pretzel.
That sounds about right for a James Harden.
See, even the retired basketball fan comes out of hibernation with that basketball ticket. Oh,
I've never liked James Harden. Fuck that guy.
Yeah, he's requested like 4 trades and cried his way out of all the teams.
That's my point. Is even you have a take on James Harden. That tells you how visceral his reaction has been in terms of pop culture and sports. For that, I think we've said enough. We got to save some of the hot takes for Saturday. We'll see you then. We'll build some more pillars. We'll have some better process. See you guys. Take care. Be safe. Happy Halloween.
Take care, everybody.